Now, in a much more serious vein, I want to talk to you a little bit about image, and this is one of the areas that in my new position on the AOPA Foundation, we should be talking about image. And specifically, what you're going to see here is a news clip from several years ago that came up on the television in Sacramento, California, where a couple of pilots had gone up in an experimental aircraft, that has nothing to do with it, it could have been any aircraft, and decided to do low-level aerobatics over a neighborhood. They lost control of the airplane and crashed into a house. From a media perspective, from a PR perspective, you couldn't get a worst-case scenario. We looked at this and said, this is a mess. What do we do about it? And we decided that the best thing to do was to actually go out and address the problem head on. So I'll let you take a look at the media clip, and then we have a couple of other things to talk about.
Now, KCRA3 reports on 11.
Tonight, dozens of people paid their respects to an innocent victim of the recent Roseville plane crash.
19-year-old Christopher Musil was killed when a small plane plunged into his home. KCRA3's Miguel Almaguer reports.
Christopher Musil was sleeping February 12th when a small plane into his Roseville home. The FAA is still conducting their investigation, but witnesses say the experimental aircraft was performing low-flying acrobatics just before impact. Chris never had a chance. He was an innocent victim. A tragic accident that's been hard for his family to cope with.
That tragic Roseville accident has reinforced safety as a top concern for many area pilots. About 300 private pilots attended a seminar tonight at the Radisson Hotel in Sacramento. The goal here was for all pilots to learn about the dangers of unsafe maneuvers in the air. Experts warn it's not just aerobatics that can cause a fatal crash. Many who attended this meeting say it was a good refresher course.
And some of us who don't fly very frequently need to be reminded now and then when these safety seminars come around. What's the latest regulation, whether things change, and just to remind us to always be safe.
Here, we always like to learn from things that, the mistakes that other folks have made, so that's why I'm here.
Tonight's seminar was sponsored by the Air Safety Foundation.
We found that to be a very effective approach to dealing with some of the negative publicity that unfortunately will inevitably occur. So I'd like you all to kind of think about this a little bit in terms of how you convey the message. The other point is that you can't defend the indefensible. And as you might suspect, we have a pilot safety announcement to go along with that. So see what you think about this.
The AOPA Air Safety Foundation presents Real Aviation Heroes. Today we salute you, Mr. Buzz the Neighborhood Pilot. Your low-flying antics may go unappreciated by your family and neighbors, but we know how tough it is being the bravest, most skilled aviator since Chuck Yeager. It takes grit, courage, and the reflexes of a pro athlete, qualities you've got in space. Unsung hero of the year. When everybody else says no, you say go. And impromptu low-altitude aerobatics, where do they sign you up? So keep up the good work, Buzz Lightspeed. It's everyday heroes like you who keep general aviation firm in the public eye. AOPA Air Safety Foundation, Frederick, Maryland.
You may notice a slight similarity to a certain malt beverage commercial there. Augie Bush is actually one of our major contributors, and we told him what we were doing, and he thoroughly endorsed the concept. The idea is to say this kind of behavior is socially unacceptable to all of us, and we hope that pilots will understand. Okay. Well, now I'd like to talk, I've been talking about safety and some of the image things and so forth. I want to talk to you a little bit about something else and get your thoughts. First off, let me ask, how many of you depend on general aviation for your business? Let's see a show of hands. Okay? So most of us here in this room, all right? And one of the areas that we have a major concern with is the lack of new pilots. And that's not a new occurrence. That's been going on for some time. The declines in the pilot population are real, okay? We've gone from somewhere around a total of 800,000 pilots to this year we will slip below 600,000 pilots for the first time in the last 20 or 25 years. Why? Well, cost, complexity, perhaps changing interests, risk, perception of safety, all of those sorts of things. The economy, time and money. Those who have time don't have the money. Those who have money don't have the time. It could be any number of things. What we do know is that of the people who start to learn how to fly, approximately 80% of them do not complete to become pilots. The industry collectively has had a program to have student starts as the focus 5 times that I can recall in my career. 5 times we focused on student starts. And what were we interested in? Well, AOPA was interested in membership. The flight schools were interested in selling flight time. The aircraft manufacturers, well, you can figure out what they were interested in. And the flight instructors were interested in anything that would get them out of the right seat so they could go fly something that had kerosene in it. What was missing? The focus on the customer. The customer wanted to become a pilot. And we focused on student starts rather than student completions, which is where I think the emphasis needs to be. Well, you know, everybody talks about the weather and they talk about flight schools, but nobody does anything about it. And I think it's time we started to look at the delivery system and figure out what should be done. Is this like trying to solve world hunger? Well, maybe. But if we don't resolve it, we're going to watch this business very gradually dwindle away. And those of us who sell high-end equipment, business jets, and so forth, you can't get a graduating class unless you have a freshman class. And ultimately, what you wind up with is an infrastructure that looks a lot like Europe. Airports are a critical part of all of this, and as the population dwindles, we don't need as many airports. If you only have a couple of airplanes flying into Dodge City or Garden City, Kansas, it's not too long before those airports don't exist anymore, and then the use for business jets and other business aircraft doesn't exist either. So this